Hey guys, how's it going on here? Welcome to a new Assetto Corsa video, and as you can see, we're going to drive in the LaFerrari around the Nordschleife using the DLC, the new DLC from Assetto Corsa, the Dream Pack thingy, and I'm also going to drive with the triple monitor setup, which is new, but it's not really perfect in terms of setup. It's not symmetrical or anything like that, but it does the job fine so far. This is a little bit like angled and stuff like that, but as I said, it works fine. Now the purpose of this video is trying to make a little comparison between the LaFerrari and the McLaren P1. Obviously a lot of rumors about this subject, Ferrari, P1, which one is better, stuff like that. I'm going to test that out myself around the Nordschleife here. One interesting fact is that I haven't driven the Nordschleife yet on this game, at least not the laser scan version. I've done plenty of laps on the Snoopy version, which was a mod, but it was something different from laser scan, so I'm interested and looking forward to seeing those kind of differences. What are the differences? But the main point, as I said, really is trying to compare the LaFerrari to the P1. I've also not driven a single meter in the P1 so far, so this is going to be quite interesting, and it's actually good because then you can straight away have some impressions. Of course, I've done some laps in the LaFerrari before, but I don't think it matters all that much. So let's just go then around this laser scat Nordschleife. My first lap really, which is interesting. Obviously, I've done plenty of laps on mods. Not only for Assetto Corsa, but also stuff like R-Factor, Nordschleife mods. There are plenty of mods out there. So what I want to do is do one outlap, then do one, a bit quicker lap, like a hot lap, and then compare them a little bit. And this is pretty much part one. There will also be a part two where I, go pretty much flat out, which I'll do some practice off camera. And then go flat out, try to put in a good lap, and see whether I'll be quicker with the P1 or the LaFerrari. So when you step into this car, let's get back to the point of this video. When you step into a car like this, the first thing which you will notice is the engine noise. There's a very big V12 engine behind me, and that produces around 850 horsepower, something like that. Then there's also a small electric engine producing a few more horsepower, and we're going up to about 950 horsepower, which is quite a bit more than the P1. And in fact, this car is also lighter, I think, than the P1. But yeah, the first thing really, what you notice is the sound, and the sound is great. It's just such a screaming engine. Sounds very, very powerful. I don't really notice too many differences yet in terms of track. It's obviously quite similar to the ones which was a mod. I noticed the trees being a little different, and of course a few of the curves, but that's really it. Not too much. Now I need to try to keep it out of the barriers, of course, as well if I can. I'm currently running at 65 FPS. It feels a little bit less than that, to be honest. It feels a little bit stuttering here or there. I hope you guys don't really notice it too much. So I really, bought this DLC about 30 minutes ago, and I stepped into it straight away. I set up everything for this recording, then just stepped into it. Oh, that is quite a bit different than the mod, the Snoopy mod, of course, I'm talking about for Assetto Corsa. This one as well. Feels like the distance traveled between the corners is a little bit shorter. But this car feels very, very direct. and it tends to snap a little bit when you carry too much speed into a corner. And with snapping, I mean, the front end is so reactive, so strong, so responsive is the word, that the rear end cannot always keep up with the front end when you enter a corner with too much speed. And then the rear end starts to, you know, get a little bit tail happy, a little bit out of shape, stuff like that. Like that. You know, the rear end just, it's a little bit unstable. I wonder what this corner will be like. It's obviously very, very banked. Oh wow, that is quite a bit different. And obviously, apart from the sound and the driving, one thing which you certainly notice is the incredible speed. I mean, it accelerates from 0 to 100, from 100 to 200, from 200 to 300. It makes it look like, you know, effortless. There's no effort. It just goes so easy. You just put your power down and there you go. But what else do you expect with about 950 horsepower behind you? Oh, that is nice. A lot better than the mod, to be honest. There's a little bit of a different curbing there on the exit. Well, very high quality track though, but what else do you expect? That was a bit too much. Yep, it was. So still trying to explore the track a little bit. Oh, that is certainly quite a bit tighter than the mod. You know, what I'm currently doing, as I said, this is the first time I've driven it, so everything I see right now is, you know, I know it from the mod, but it still is a little bit different. So I'm trying to adjust as well. Then, as I said, we'll do one outlap and then try to do a little bit of a quicker lap, if we can, without smashing it into the barrier, obviously. And then, as I said before, there will be a little bit of a part 2 later. Now I can take a little bit of a rest. Yeah, everything just goes so quick. Even the Nordschleife, you know, it's just such a long lap, but it feels quite short in a car like this. I mean, look at this. We're going 330. 360. About to approach 360. Oh, that's what I mean. The rear end is so twisty there. Unbelievable, really, the speed. Okay, here we go. Going to start the lap. Let's go. See what we can do. Gonna try to be a little bit careful as well. Make sure that I don't put it in the barriers if I can. Oops. Was a big mistake. I think I actually messed up with another part of the track there. See, sometimes, you know, on a track like this, you cannot lose concentration. You just cannot lose concentration. You've got to keep concentrated. And it's also quite a long lap. And I certainly lost concentration there. Ah, so much speed, so much grip as well. Then hard on the power, or on the brakes rather, sorry. And then again on the power. And you go down the hill here. keep it flat. Just keep it flat. Up to 300 kilometers an hour. Slow it down again. There's a little bit of a slow section coming up. A little bit of understeer in the slow speed sections, in the slow corners, but that makes sense because there's not as much downforce. Right on limit. And then I was out of shape. And that's indeed a barrier tap then. We'll keep on going. We'll keep on going. You know, I remember when I did a video with this car in Oculus Rift that I thought it felt like an F1 car. The sound as well. Obviously the cars now have a V6 engine which sounds like some kind of vacuum cleaner. But it has some kind of a sound from F1 to it. And then of course I mean the old era. And it has so much power as well. In fact, I think in the V10 era they had about 930 horsepower. This one has 950. It makes a great sound as well. The only difference obviously is the weight then. And obviously the aerodynamic stuff like that is different. But it comes really, really close to it in terms of speed as well. And I remember saying when I drove this car with the Oculus Rift, I remember saying that you almost think it's an F1 car, but then you are on the brakes, and when you slow the car down, when you are on the brakes, you suddenly do realize that it's a road car, because the brakes are just definitely not as strong, obviously, as in an F1 car. Holy shit, this is quick. No, that is quite tight. This is quite a bit different compared to the mod actually. There are a few little tricky kinks just before the corners, which are not really there in the Snoopy mod. And as I said, I will compare everything from this track to the Snoopy mod, because that's all the experience I have. Keep fighting, Michael. Oops. But the brakes, don't get me wrong, they are not poor. But obviously, you sometimes slow down from about 330 kilometers an hour. Ooh, the bumper did not like that. You slow down from about 300 kph. You slam on the brake. Of course, they are powerful, but not as powerful as an F1 car. Oops. Again, it feels a little bit stuttery, the screen, for some reason. 61 FPS, but it feels less than that for some reason. Ooh. That was quite slow. Need to be careful there that you don't go airborne. Shit, that is a definite barrier hit. That section feels tighter than the mod, that's for sure, but I still carried way too much speed into there, of course, so I don't blame anything other than myself. Then we're almost there. I'm currently hitting about a 950, if the delta timer is right. Important corner here, as it leads onto this very long straight. And now you can take a little bit of a rest. So, almost going into the P1 now then. It's obviously fantastic to drive this car. It's so super quick. Again, hitting 330 kilometers an hour here. Let's try to keep it flat. It should be. I should be able to keep it flat here. Here we go. Pay attention to the rear end. Ah, easily actually. And then slow down. Still able to brake a lot later than that, in fact. I'm looking forward to driving this again. And then, you know, go really flat out. What lap time? And 6:47.0. I've done the 6:47.0. Right, that's it for the LaFerrari. A few crashes here and there. But yeah, definitely need to get used to it a little bit. So let's go ahead and step into the P1. And I'll be back soon. Alright, here we are. My very first time in a McLaren P1. I haven't even driven this on a mod or with mod on another game. Gonna run a separate or a similar setup to the LaFerrari. And I will be comparing everything to LaFerrari. I mean, it's what I've driven first here, well, 5 minutes ago really. And this one obviously will come close to the LaFerrari. So let's have a look. Well, here we go, the cockpit first. It is quite a detailed cockpit. I absolutely like the dashboard over here. Probably the dashboard is something I prefer over the LaFerrari. Obviously the driving is what matters most. Let's go. Wow. This is quite cool. I really feel like I'm in the car. This is amazing. I have to say, this feels much more natural than the LaFerrari, to be honest. It might be the seating position, which, you know, the setting in game works a lot better with the P1 compared to the LaFerrari, but I feel like I'm actually driving this one right now. Wow. That is quite cool. I prefer the sound of the LaFerrari, that's for sure. I think this is a 900 horsepower V8. I think it weighs about 1400 kilograms, if I'm correct. Hitting 300 kilometers an hour. I feel like I'm really in the car, but at the same time the Ferraris felt more spectacular. Part of it surely is the sound. But look at this grip though. Wow, amazing. Just sticked right to the apex there. I know I wasn't flat out or anything like that, but it still surprised me quite a bit. Ooh, that's the plank hitting the circuit. Chassis rather. Right, let's go. Give this this car a little bit of power, a little bit of throttle. Very strong on the brake there, had to be said. And the LaFerrari, when you go on the brake. By the way, it seems like the FPS is better now. It's still 60. So LaFerrari felt a little bit stuttering with the frames a second, but this one doesn't. The brakes are very strong, where the Ferrari feels a little bit sloppy. You know, tends to get a little bit loose on the brakes. This one so far doesn't. Oh, it got a little bit loose there. When I changed direction, the rear end did. And what is so surprising is that it has so much horsepower. And this is basically, this applies to both. Although I think it applies a little bit more to the P1. It has so much power, but when you actually go on the throttle, there's not all that much wheel spin. Traction control is off. Yes, it is of course off. Just to make sure. With the Ferrari, you can sometimes, you know, get a bit of wheel spin, have some oversteer. But watch this. flat out on the exit, and it's so stable, so planted on the road. But so far, I still have to say that the LaFerrari was just absolutely spectacular. Also in terms of driving, it feels like you can play quite hard with the LaFerrari. This one, you know, with this one, it just, the speed amazes you, and the grip you have, the downforce available to you. And I love the seating position, I really do. It's quite easy to drive. It also applies to both. It is so easy to drive for a car which has so much power and doesn't weigh all that much. Obviously, it's also a little bit thanks to the downforce. Keep it in the cambered zone. Wow, this is incredibly stable. Seriously. It is so hard to tell anything about the grip level compared to the LaFerrari. Both of you quite different in their own ways. But when it comes down to cornering grip, they feel, well, kind of the same. The McLaren, I feel like, tends to understeer a little bit more on corner exits when you apply the throttle. So a little bit of understeer on the positive throttle, which probably explains as well why the Ferrari, you can play a little bit more with it, you know. The Ferrari tends to lean towards oversteer. I got some oversteer there, but it was on the corner entry. The Ferrari tends to oversteer a little bit on corner exit under positive throttle, generating some wheel spin. This one seems to prefer to stay planted on the road, but at the same time that is going to create some understeer for you. But look at that, look at the speed I was able to carry through there. I felt like I wasn't able to do that in the Ferrari. Full throttle, oh, that's downforce for you there. It feels a little bit more planted to the road than the Ferrari. But as I said, I think this car tends to lean more towards understeer rather than oversteer, which explains why it feels so incredibly planted on the road. But both cars are extremely fun to drive, I think. It's so hard to pick one above another. For me so far, I think the Ferrari is going to win, because the sound and just the driving, really, you can play with that car quite a bit. Let's see. I think it's a little bit slower than the Ferrari over here. Hitting 330 now. 331, 35, 36, 37, 38. Up to 7th, 340. I think the Ferrari was a little bit quicker. See that? That is exactly the difference I was talking about in terms of driving. You saw how I had some oversteer there? I actually went quite wide to the corner, wider than I expected, as we are about to start our lap. I hope I can explain it in the next lap too. It was more understeering through there. Well, remember, previously, in a Ferrari, I said notice through there how the rear end wiggles around a little bit. The McLaren felt absolutely planted. But at the same time, that created some understeer. I think that's the main difference between the two cars. Okay, let's try to concentrate. Also need to put in a good lap with this one. A bit of understeer again. It feels more understeery through certain sections. Maybe not as much as in the low speed sections, but definitely higher speed corners. Oh, don't take off. Almost became Owners Airlines there. Oh, look how planted that is on the brakes. The braking feels so similar though to the Ferrari, maybe a little bit more stable again, but that's it. Keep it flat out. Ferrari, I think, a little bit quicker in the straight line, which makes sense because it is a little bit lighter, has more horsepower. McLaren has done an awesome job on the aerodynamics and stuff like that. This has so much grip. Power, 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 power. Right on the curb there. That was good. This is where I messed up in the Ferrari. No problems for the McLaren. As I said, I think this is a little bit easier to drive than the Ferrari. Not sure, but so far I get that impression. Well, this is going to be an incredible quick lap time if I can keep this up. I'm currently looking at a 6:35 according to the Delta timer, which would be very quick indeed. Oh, back, 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 back. Lock up, lock up. That's it. Yep, that's it. That was my fault though. Keep on going. It'll be interesting to see a direct comparison between this one and LaFerrari. It's so difficult to do that because every driver has his own driving style. And that could benefit one car over another. Flat out here, yeah, no problems. Oh, slow it down, right on the limit. So far, I am quicker than the LaFerrari, I can tell you that. Remember, this is my first drive in the P1, so that shows that it's quite easy to drive, even though it has, excuse me, so much power. Definitely braking here. I've learned my lesson. Last time in LaFerrari I flew off the track there because I didn't really apply enough brakes. Smoother lap than the LaFerrari so far in the P1, that's for sure. But now the part comes up which I found tricky. I haven't really mastered this final part of the Nordschleife yet, the part we're about to enter right now. I find this part very tricky in fact. So many corners, so hard to memorize them. Oh, this is a quick lap so far. 6:33 says the Delta timer, but I'm not sure whether I know how far this Delta timer is off. We'll see. Oops. Keep concentrated. That is a bit of honesty there, mid-corner. There again. Seems about free or a third or fourth gear. Tends to understeer a little bit on the apex of the corners. This is flat out. Then brake just before this bump. Oh. That might have been flat actually. Maybe that could be flat. I said I'll do some racing off camera. I lost it with the Ferrari there. But again, I've learned my lesson. I'll do some practicing off camera. Then try to compare these two cars as much as possible over one lap around this track. This is my apex. And again, the exit here is so important. And throttle. Keep it flat out now. Up to fifth. Take a rest. Delta timer says 6:35. I doubt whether we are able to make that, but we'll see. Okay, here we go. I will keep it flat out. See how much it understeers compared to the LaFerrari. Here we go. I hope it does the same as it did last time. Yeah. I think the steering lock is the most important difference in terms of the understeer there, as I completely messed that up. It's probably the steering lock. You need to apply more steering lock in the McLaren, because it didn't really understeer that time there. 6:37 is the final lap time, which is definitely quicker than LaFerrari. It's quite a bit quicker than LaFerrari, so far the P1 wins compared to the LaFerrari, but I do think this car is quite easy to drive. So with a little bit more practice, we'll see whether this car really is able to defeat the LaFerrari. And look at that. I think that is pretty much it, guys, for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. Hope it was a little bit informative for you as well. I've tried to explain it as much as I could, and I hope I've done a good job. Remember that there's some kind of part 2 coming up as well, where I try to compare these guys, these cars as best as possible. But as I said, it's quite hard to do that. The racing position in this car is amazing. It really is. It feels very low to the ground as well. There's a lot more feeling in this car compared to the LaFerrari in terms of driving position, not in terms of driving itself. Because in my opinion, the LaFerrari wins there. Look at the rear wing, by the way. See that? And there's some nice work by McLaren as well. But that's pretty much it. Hope you have enjoyed it. Hope to see you next time, and goodbye.